Now, this is the big one. People say, Max, I don't need to advertise because I've got good word of mouth. Sure, why not have referrals and digital? Why not have referrals and networking? Do it all. Like, why are we doing that? Why are we getting so hung up on all? And I'll tell you why, honestly, because guys don't know how to do digital and they're too afraid to go networking. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name is Max. I'm your host. I'm the CEO here at Smith & Sons and the ambitious founder of EliteBusinessAdvisory.com. Good to have you with us this morning or this afternoon or this evening, wherever you're up to in the world. I appreciate, if you're a long-time listener, I appreciate you tuning back in. And if you are a first-time listener or viewer, I appreciate you checking us out. Great to have you with us. As usual, like and subscribe. One of these drops every week, and just enjoy being able to try and deliver massive amounts of value to help you build your building company to a high performance level. Don't forget, get across to the Business for Builders VIP Facebook group. It's a private group there. Answer those questions, and if you're a good sort, I'll let you in. Be sure to answer the questions. Those that don't kind of get bottlenecked. Look, I think, as usual, we want to make sure that, we are giving you something to tuck under your arm and walk away with. And, it was last week, that we had, inside of that Business for Builders VIP, I've encouraged the guys and gals that are part of that group to really just pop the questions on the board and ask for the insight. And the reason is because there is more than just me. There's guys and gals that are part of that group that probably have some good experiences and have had some good success, with certain aspects. And there's going to be more than one person that if you ask a question, there's probably other people out there that go, yeah, I want to be involved in that as well. I'd love to hear what, some questions are. And then, of course, I will look forward to jumping on the bandwagon and maybe throwing my 2 cents worth as well. So if you've got a question, get on Business for Builders VIP on Facebook. And let's really try and, a rising tide lifts all ships. Let's try and make it better, the industry better for all those that have the right mindset towards improvement and development of one's business. So to my point, we had a question there from a young fellow. I think his name was Carlos. And, a few of the guys chimed in off the back of his question. And it was good to see some of that, guys wanting to help other people in the industry, and especially when you've got someone that young who's just kicking off. So, it was a good thing to watch. Now, what I did then do, off the back of that, interesting. So what happened by that question being asked and then by guys chiming in, I went to thinking about, okay, if there's more than one person that's out there that's just getting started, great. So what can I do? So what I'm going to cover in the next 2 episodes, so I'm going to do I'm going to do a part 1 and a part 2. So bear with me. But what I've got, and you can find this, if you are in the group, then you can go and track this down. It's an essential guide for residential builders and contractors. So we're talking about some key strategies for sustainable growth and operational excellence. So this document that I am reading off right now is there. So I'd encourage you, if you're in the group, get across there, print it out, make a copy, do whatever you want to do, and revise this review this, because it's going to be something, because we're covering both operational and also activity key metrics or KPIs. It's a really good guide. It's something that you can look at it and go, oh, I didn't even know about that, or I've thought about doing that. Now I feel like I'm compelled to do something about that. So I'm going to basically cover off in the next 2 episodes, a part 1 and a part 2 of this document, which can be found in the Business for Builders VIP. Really basic overview, but we're going to quickly chat about the operational focus. So, I think what we're trying to do in our business is to grow the business, but from growing the business, we need systems, and really systems is a mindset. Sure, there's a physical outworking of, like, I've got SOPs, I've got workflows, I've got explanations, I've got instructions. This is how I want things done. I've got a very consistent social convention in our company for doing this or that. And so it's important that, we get that. But really, if we lack the awareness, then that's going to be a problem, because you don't know what you don't know. And of course, if you're not doing the things that you need to do because you don't know about them, you're going to struggle. Okay. So what I'm trying to do maybe today, maybe today is a bit of a kick in the pants for you because you kind of know it, but you're not doing it. You might be brand new and going, hey, I didn't know any about that stuff, so I'm glad I can hear it, and then I can go and get a hard copy document as well. So we're going to talk about some areas where needs to be some operational focus. Some of this may be familiar to you, others might be it might be new. Right, client acquisition and marketing. So we're talking about, Gary Vaynerchuk just, put together a book called Day Trading Attention. And really what we do now on digital is we fight for people's attention. So sure, digital is a big part of what we do, but as you'll see right now, part of that is networking. So, attending local events, joining community groups, connecting with other industry professionals. I am part of a coaching fraternity or a coaching mastermind group. I get to sit in a room with other coaches and we get to talk about what's working for them, what they're using, what technologies are available. So there's importance in that networking event. And I know that guys are part of BNI, and some of my guys, one of my guys in particular, he was in BNI and he reckons that was worth over $250,000 in contracts just to be part of that group. So when we're talking about, oh, Max, I haven't got any leads, which honestly, when I start with you, if I start with you as an elite business advisory coaching client, if we don't have any opportunity to speak to in the way of leads, it kind of is going to undermine our progress going forward. So, when I meet with you, one of the first things I'm going to ask you is, what is it that you do to generate leads? What is your client acquisition and marketing plan? Okay, of course, the second part of that is an online presence. So we want to maintain an updated website, engage on social media, and collect positive reviews on platforms like Google and Yelp. That's a big part of what we do. And of course, referrals. Now, this is the big one. People say, Max, I don't need to advertise because I've got good word of mouth. Sure, why not have referrals and digital? Why not have referrals and networking? Do it all. Like, why are we doing that? Why are we getting so hung up on all? And I'll tell you why, honestly, because guys don't know how to do digital and they're too afraid to go networking. That could be the truth, okay? So I think, when I talk about success lies outside of our comfort zone, we need to improve. So we are not the individual that we need to be in 3 years to have that $3 million business by staying the same. If we do not develop, when you do not grow, and we don't push ourselves to enlarge our capacity, then our business it might boom for a moment in time. And I have seen this. Guys get the business to, they've always done $500,000. All of a sudden they get something going on and they're doing a few things right and they get to 1.5 and then the whole thing comes crumbling down because the human ceased to develop. The business was developing, but the business continuity has to be led by the business leader. And if that business leader is behind the program, then they're going to struggle with developing the business in perpetuity as well. Right, so the first thing there was client acquisition and marketing. So you do that through networking, online presence, and of course referrals. Right, number 2, operational focus is financial management. So we're talking about budgeting. Create and stick to a monthly budget to manage cash flow effectively. Where do we start? We I don't know whether, expansion capital is a dream. Just having operational capital is like, Max, I just need to be able to pay my bills, And so I think that action cures anxiety. When you're taking action and you start to do, construct a budget, like what do I spend every month? I would definitely encourage you to try and separate your personal expenses from your business expenses. You need to be running those two separate budgets. One's a personal, one's a business. But we need to make sure that we are active in not only establishing the budget and then put in the bottom drawer and then nothing happens, but really using that as an assessment tool. So it's no different if you're doing a quote, you're going to put, and you win a job, you're going to put that budget together. Then when you go out and build it, you've got your actual spend. So you want to compare your actual spend to your budget, okay? And so, if we go, right, we've got to maintain our budget for expenses in the company to $15,000, why are we spending $18,000? That needs to be measured, because what you don't measure or manage, you can't improve. So we need to be on that fairly consistently as well. Right, invoicing and payments as part of financial management. Ensure timely invoicing and follow up on overdue payments, possibly using accounting software. Now, I don't know how else you do it in this day and age, But if you're not using an accounting software, I would encourage you to do that. I mean, QuickBooks is like $32 Canadian a month or something, and it will absolutely change the way you do business. If you're currently doing invoices on an Excel spreadsheet, the chances of making an error are great, and it takes you a lot longer because there's a lot more editing to go into that. So consider that. That's super important. The thing I like too about software is I can put out a bunch of invoices, across the board, everything that we do, and I can actually, that software will actually send out reminders once it hits the due by date. I don't have to do that. It's all automated, okay? And so that's the other upside. You certainly can't do that on a spreadsheet. Cost control. I was chatting with a client yesterday. We're talking about cost engineering. So we're really talking about, when we've got structural engineers as builders, we're familiar with what they do. Well, we need to be our own cost engineer. So part of that is, how do we go about cost control? So we want to regularly review expenses and look for the cost saving opportunities without compromising quality. So, in running our business, what are some things that are frivolous? What are some subscriptions that we don't use anymore? I think too often we just kind of set and forget. And, I think we maybe disrespect the power of that compound, where you might only spend $32 a month on something that doesn't really matter, but over a period of months and years, it will add up. So we've really got to be controlling our expenses, because remember, if you were to take your fixed expense number of $10,000, let's say your business costs you $10,000 a month and you're marking up by 43%, which is creating a 30% margin, then you essentially, you've got to invoice, you've got to be able to calculate by dividing your fixed expense of $10,000 divided by your profit margin percentage. That'll tell you you've got to invoice for around about $34,000 a month just to cover your expenses. Okay, that's why it's important to understand that metric, and that will help you in your cost control as well. Number 3, customer relations management. Okay, communication. Keep clients informed about project progress and potential issues to build trust. I just think, I'm on the fence about how much information prior. I like to do the week in review and what I think is coming up next week. That's about as far as I take it. I would never give a client a Gantt chart. They've got a contract with a completion date, and I'm happy to give them the week in review and what we're planning to do next week. That's what I would do. And then, of course, anything that comes across my desk that's going to create a jackknife or some complications within the project, where we've got delays on materials or shortage of labor, things like that. Obviously, we want to communicate that to them fairly briefly. You don't want to go to the clients and just tell your bleeding heart story. Keep it professional. This is just an FYI, but I'm working on it. We're looking for a solution as we speak. That sort of communication is professional, and I think it's well received by clients because they want to know what's going on. They just want to know, what's happening within their project. Obviously, if you're running a cost plus contract and you don't have a completion date, I think there's a lot of angst that builds up in clients because they all of a sudden they've got that feeling of uncertainty. They don't know when things are happening. They don't know when the completion date's going to be. They certainly don't have a clue as to what the ultimate price, the outcome of the project pricing is going to be. And so, I think if you're in that world, you actually need to be communicating at a very high level, because the clients will move into that fear aspect. They will start to then be a little suspicious about what's going on. And once that happens, you do have a hard time maintaining a good relationship with your client base going forward. Right, quality assurance. Consistently deliver high quality work and address complaints promptly. So, I think because we're builders and we're entrusting the responsibility of quality workmanship to our sub-trades, it all stems from our ability to recruit. Because it's easy to go, well, that door's not hung correctly, but you allow the carpenter to do the work. So what it means is you either fire him and you got to fix it yourself, or more importantly, or we would prefer that you would actually recruit the right guy. And so we want to make sure that we don't, we have our quality assurance procedures throughout the project. You don't want to get to the back end and realize all these doors are hung upside down. You want to make sure that as you go through the project, you have those regular checklists. So at frame stage, you have a checklist where you go around and you check all the window opening sizes, or you check all the door head heights, make sure there's no bows, into the door openings and things like that. So you really got to make sure that you think about the whole process holistically, and you go, what are the potential cock-ups? And then you build a quality assurance program around that, and that ensures that when you get to drywall stage or beyond that, and your finishing carpenter is now going to try and hang some doors, he has to then, break into the drywall to be able to, straighten up that stud or whatever the case may be. What you're trying to come up with by way of a quality assurance is, of course, we want to deliver a high level product to the client, but we want to have the sleep at night factor, because if you're running 3 or 4 projects, if you're not addressing that via a quality assurance program or process, you could end up with a shit ton of issues at the end of the job, on the end of jobs. And then all of those reworks just cost you money and create stress for you as well. Right. Dot point number 3 here, customer feedback. So we want to seek feedback regularly. We're talking net promoter scores, or NPSs, and CSATs, which is your customer satisfaction. We have those two set up. One we have at the end of the sales process, and the other one we have for the end of the project. And it's important that we understand, and give the opportunity for the client to give us that feedback. And then, of course, moving on from that, it's like, how do I go about staging? Because I'm a big advocate of client video testimonials. I would say that our Canadian website in the whole Smith & Sons group internationally has the most, and yet we're probably the smallest. We are the smallest part of Smith & Sons International. And so, because it's really been important for me to understand that previous customers being able to share their story with prospective Smith & Sons customers or clients is the best way to demonstrate value, the value that's contained within your brand as far as an experience goes. So that customer feedback, that's the piece de resistance, just by the way, when you've got a client that can sit there for 5 to 8 to 10 minutes and just share their story about what they really enjoyed about the process. And that speaks volumes, and it does a lot of the heavy lifting while we're asleep. People can go and look at that. Matter of fact, when I've got one of our contact forms from our website, where when you click on the submit button, it will then redirect you to one of our most recent client video testimonials. So they've got excited, they've entered their information into the contact form, and then instantly they go across to one of the video and they can watch that again. And it just really confirms that, yes, I'm going in the right direction by, speaking with this building contractor. Okay, number 4 is operational efficiency. Okay, scheduling. Plan and schedule jobs efficiently to avoid downtime and meet deadlines. Guys, I just think, now we're starting to get into the zone where me as a carpenter by trade and a qualified builder, we have to be able to deliver at the highest level. If we do not, we cost ourselves time, guys and gals, and that time's money. And so, this is why, whenever I'm designing or putting together an estimate, or the components to make up a proposal or a quote, at the same time I'm building a task list so that I can start thinking about my scheduling side of things. I don't want to be too conservative and allow too much time, because then my build time really gets elongated, but I don't want to be overly optimistic either. Now, it's impossible for you to do that. It's impossible for you to understand where the hot spots in your build schedule are if you're not using a Gantt chart of some description. So, I think too, the other reason we do that is because I like to give my clients, in the early part, a project duration. It's going to take 3 months, it's going to take 5 months, 7 months, whatever the case may be. And then when we go to contract, obviously I will pick that start date and it will automatically produce for me the end date. So, and again, it's very much the Gantt chart, that creating that schedule is almost like a time budget. You're like, okay, I go in and give the purchase order for the finishing carpenter or the framing carpenter. I'm like, mate, I've allowed 3 weeks for you to do this scope of work. I need it done. And so when you get 1.5 weeks into that, you go, mate, are we on time? Because I've got, if I'm trying to see round corners by using my schedule, because if I start getting overruns, if I'm 2 weeks into a 3-week allocation for a framing carpenter and he's only halfway finished, what is that telling me? I have got an issue. Now, that delay might have been created because the carpenter's slow. It might have been created because he lost some guys. It might have been created because we had inclement weather. I'm the builder. I'm the one who's got to watch the performance of the project. I'm the one that then has to deliver the bad news. And what is the solution to the client? It's my responsibility to insulate them from the bullshit. Okay. But I want to be proactive, not reactive. I want to sit there at the 2-week mark into a 3-week framing contract and go, we're going to blow our time budget on this. Why is that? Now, if it is an inclement weather thing, I can issue a no-cost builder created change order and advise the clients that way. Hey, we got a week's worth of rain right in the middle of our framing scope. Therefore, we're going to lose that week. I've got to now add that on to the back end of the contract. Now our completion date, our revised completion date is this. That is the power of having a good scheduling tool or Gantt chart. Please don't underestimate the importance of that. Everything that we do, you've heard me talk about our activity key metrics before. A lot of that is really circled around seeing round corners, looking at the trends in the last 90 days, and then making a very categoric call based on the other performance metrics that are in that spreadsheet to really ascertain where is our weak spot, why is the business trending negatively? And then, of course, we get confirmation that what we've done in the last 90 days is why the business is trending up. We got good lead inquiry, our forecast build value is on point, our conversion rate is good because this is the contract values, the dollars that we signed up this month, which equal our preferred monthly billables target. Our fixed expenses are in order. All of these things, we've got to be looking at the dashboard. So scheduling using a Gantt chart does very much the same thing as it relates to avoiding downtime and meeting deadlines. Operational efficiency, the next dot point here is supplies and inventory. We need to track materials and tools to avoid delays and maintain relationships with reliable suppliers. Guys, when I was an apprentice, the first thing that I would get given was a timber list. So if there was a slab that had gone down and there was material on site and there would be, packs of lumber, I never did enjoy it. I hated it, actually, now that I think back on it. But I was never explained the importance of it. They would just go, here's a timber list, go and count how much wood's on the ground, how much timber's out there, how much lumber. But, now going forward and looking back, the reason that we were doing that was because we wanted to make sure that what was ever on the purchase order that got delivered, as in we delivered the purchase order to the supplier, that they, in actual fact, when everything was strapped up, we got all of our lintels and all of our studs and all of our top and bottom plates, everything was there, all of our bracing material, any hardware that was needed was all on site. And that would take me a couple of hours to get through because I was an apprentice and not very sharp. But super important that we do that. And then, of course, making sure that any of our tools, guys, I think, I'm probably a classic for this. I've got old tools, which I'll never give up until they absolutely burn out or break down or whatever. But we've got to make sure, the last thing we want to do is go and buy tools because we're like, well, where did that skill saw or power saw go? Well, I don't know. It's probably up in the attic of somebody's house because someone didn't do a dum-dum check. We used to call that. And I used to go and sit stuff now in Australia. I haven't seen many noggins, right? Which is, if it's an 8-foot wall, 4 foot up the wall, there's a row of, wood that basically, we believe that's what we were doing in Australia. And I would go and put tools like chalk lines and measuring tapes and shit like that. I would go and place that and go, have you done a dum-dum check? And they're like, yeah, mate, there's nothing being left out of the trailer. So, I think that's another system that I used to use to make sure. It's like go around and do a dum-dum check. I need to make sure that all my tools are back in the trailer. And so the problem, guys, is we move into a builder or general contractor or business owner standpoint. And because the guys out on site, bless their bloody hearts, they don't pay for the power tools. They don't pay for those, tools that we buy from a company standpoint. And then they go missing. They're like, I don't know what happened, mate. And then they go on with their life and we got to foot the bill. So, I think, if we're going to talk about operational efficiency, then we need to make sure that everything, we have a way to track the tools. And I think one of my guys in Smith & Sons, he has a tracking mechanism and I can't remember who they are off the top of my head, but you can get access to technology where you can put either barcodes on your tools and then you can log those and it actually gives you, it's got a location capability, which is super interesting. All right. Part of our operational efficiency is our workforce management. We've got to ensure our team members are well trained and motivated and regularly review their performance. So, guys, I know a bunch of you guys probably employ your mates, and that is cool because it's fun. But then when you've got to when you need to have what I would call, what Gary Vaynerchuk calls kind candor, which means you've got to be straight up about what's going on, in the business as it relates to these mates maybe that you've got employed. Sometimes you've got to have hard conversations. And so, you don't want to be buddies and then have to have a hard conversation because you've kind of set a weird temperature. So I would subscribe as it belongs or as it relates to workforce management, have a very much a firmness with courtesy type approach, okay? You don't want to be wild and crazy, but you don't want to be too buddy-buddy. You really want to take that middle line. So you want to make sure, like I do with clients, still with team members, you want to set boundaries, manage expectations, okay? That's super important. Right, professional development. So this really is for both you and your, let's call it your management team. You might have supervisors, you might have estimators. Professional development includes continued learning. So we want to stay updated on industry trends, techniques, and regulations. And then, of course, there's a certification. So any additional certifications to enhance your skills and marketability. When we're talking about building trust, obviously, authentic credentials do develop in the minds of our both new or prospective team members as well as clients. It increases the level of credibility. So when we're talking about people do business with people they know, like, and trust, then ultimately, that takes time. So, and then it also takes resources. So there's got to be videos, and there's got to be, your bio or your CV or something about, how you've got to, like, your about us or the story component of your website. That's pretty important, as it relates to developing you as the leader. Number 6 here is compliance and risk management. Obviously, insurance. Before this call, I missed a call from our work, occupational health and safety authority here in British Columbia. So ensure necessary insurance coverage to protect your business from potential liability. The other thing I've got going on at the moment, we're trying to establish our public liability or general commercial liability, and we're right at the back end of that. There's just a few anomalies that we're trying to sort out. So make sure you've got that. I think a minimum of $2 million. I think in my franchise agreement, it's $2 million. So you want to make sure you've got your liability insurance sorted out. Licensing and permits. Keep all licenses and permits up to date and comply with local regulations. That's a pretty straightforward maneuver, dealing with your local council, your local city. Now, safety standards. You heard me talk about this a few weeks ago. Maintain high safety standards on all jobs. Job sites to protect yourself and your clients. Guys, it's such a massive threat in the event that you do such a great job of building the business and then you neglect your responsibility or the attention to detail as it relates to safety. Ignorance is not a defense. You must be able to demonstrate a high level of responsibility as it relates to the safety of suppliers, subcontractors, clients on your job sites. If you can't demonstrate that, you will get a rap over the knuckles. In some cases, that will drive your business into bankruptcy, depending on the incident. And the final point here for part one of this is strategic planning, and this is really a big one. We talk about this in the business development side of Smith and Sons and Elite Business Advisory, because we've got to have a target, and it really makes. I shouldn't have to say that, but unless we understand. And I'm going to do in a couple of episodes, I'm going to talk about, what's your current state, what's your desired state, and what are the roadblocks. I'm actually going to do an episode on that. And so really that's going to delve into the areas of, goal setting. It's like, what's my goal for 12 months? What am I doing, every quarter to achieve that? What am I doing every month to achieve that? What am I doing every week to achieve that? So we've got to, set clear, achievable goals. So you want them to be out of reach, but not out of sight, for your business each month, and adjust as they're needed. So this is why looking or measuring the performance of your business, it might look bad, but if you don't know it looks bad, then that's actually a bigger threat to your business and the longevity and the growth of your business. Also, a part of strategic planning is market analysis. So we regularly want to analyze the market and competition to identify growth opportunities. So, I think part of that is almost like, a little bit of a side pivot to market analysis. It's like, what's the niche going to be that we're going to focus on? Are we going to go into new home builds? Or are we going to go into, renovations and remodels, that sort of thing? Are we going to go and focus on commercial work? And that's really important to identify as well. And then, of course, part of that is also what's our client profile, our preferred client profile. Who do we want to do business with? And that's really important. So, guys, if you've got any questions on that, be sure to email me if you like, max@elitebusinessadvisory.com. Like and subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. One of these drops every week. Get across to Facebook VIP. and answer the questions. If you're a good sort, I'll let you in. And be sure to download this document and get across. If you've got any questions on that, once you've had a bit of a review, guys, I think an email's fine, but shoot the questions. Drop them in VIP. Every one of us can have a crack at answering those for the benefit of the whole group, and I'd love to get involved and jam around that as well. So I think that's about it. If you want to chat with me quickly about coaching, then let's do it. And we'll just see where you're up to and go from there. So go build a kick-ass business. See you on the next episode. Cheers.